VirtuStream was a startup company. We were acquired by EMC last year, and we had to decide where we would place our bets as we became this growth company that would later be acquired by EMC for about $1.3 billion. And so you look at things, I mean, this is something from the World Bank, and you look at things like ease of doing business, and you can see that the Gulf does very well in this area. But to be honest, we were looking at Southeast Asia. I spent a lot of time looking around, countries like Indonesia. It's the fourth largest country in the world in terms of population. But honestly, if you try to live and work in Jakarta, it's impossible. Mr. Reinfeldt talked about Istanbul. I mean, Jakarta is like Istanbul 10 times more crazy. And so we made a decision, to come to the Gulf. And some of that is to do with the ease of doing business and the emerging way you can interact with government and services here. I think one thing that I note is there's actually a competition between cities now, even regionally. There's a huge competition. If you look at, we know these iconic places that we can see on the slide here, and there's a real competition. Organizations, investments, it probably even transcends countries. It's really to do with which cities can give organizations and their citizens the most effective and pleasant way of working. And I think that's a real difference, and that's something that we're going to see carry on as the world changes, as it will do over the coming years. There's always lots of statistics that we like to talk about in these meetings. 30 billion devices, honestly, who knows how many that will be in years to come. But we know the world population's about 7 billion now. And we know that never before has it been so easy to innovate new business models, new ways of doing business. There's an exponential growth in the number of new businesses that can be created. And I stand in front of you as someone who participated in taking a business from a startup in 2010 to an acquisition by EMC, 6 years later. And this is happening all over the world. What we know, or we think, is that by 2050, we'll have 10 billion, at least 10 billion people in our global population. Most of them will be in urban areas, and that gives us a huge challenge in terms of effectively managing our cities. Also, I'm a slightly different generation to most of the citizens in the Gulf. I mean, there's a very complete opposite to Sweden, in fact, and the UK. There's a much younger demographic here, and citizens here and young people much younger, they expect to be access all of the services they need to in their pocket on their smartphone. This is completely different to the generation when I grew up, or my parents, where you'd go and queue up somewhere at a government office. People expect to be able to consume services from their pocket. We also have a duty and an absolute obligation in these smart cities to manage the environments, the climate. Earlier slides showed something like 2 billion cars coming onto the road. We have to effectively manage how we consume resources and how we deploy resources, because they'll become an ever-diminishing resource, and we know that climate change is a big issue globally. So it's something that we have to consider when we're looking at these smart cities. So really my message today is around platform. If we want to deploy a modern and secure way of our cities to operate, we need a platform, we need an underpinning, and some of that's technology, some of it's policy, some of it's political. I'll mainly focus on the kind of technology side today, but essentially we need to be mobile, it needs to be elastic, it needs to be cloud-based, information needs to be available. we need to be able to understand the huge amount of data that we're now getting from our cities, from our environment, and we need to be able to interact with our citizens via, what is called social media, but really any way that we can touch citizens in a very interactive manner. So, if you look at, what we think in EMC VertiStream on a smart city, firstly, citizen-centric. The citizen has to be at the centre of everything we're thinking about now. We have to put services and interaction with services in the hands of the citizen. And that means that we have to optimise our resources, and we have to gather and we have to know a lot of information and data such that we can deliver those services in a cost-effective and integrated manner. So for me, that means that interconnection is really important. I'll talk a little bit about initiatives and how they need to be connected up, but interconnected is really important. Intelligence is really important. So intelligent means that we're making decisions based on inputs on the fly in real time. We want to be able to, our systems and our cities to react with us as we're interacting with them. And so, really the underpinning thing here is you need a platform. And again, this platform has to be, there has to be some political sponsorship to this kind of platform, and it has to be able to deliver this interconnection, instrumentation, and citizen-centric type of service. So, if we look at what I have here, our challenge always, and how we've typically delivered services, is we've done it in silos. And if you look at, I'm a Londoner, I'll talk about London, we have multiple silos and multiple different functions developing multiple different solutions that at best are integrated badly and most times are not integrated at all. So the citizen has multiple points of entry and they're not joined up. That is expensive and it delivers poor outcomes. Now, one of the things that drives that, frankly, is not technology. It's around governance and strategic direction. Because, if you look in the UK, UK government runs 57 different data centres. Nobody really knows why, but there's 57 different data centres and a tremendous amount of IT spend, and it's generally not integrated. So, for a smart city to really work, you want integration and correlation between these different functional silos. Now, if we look at the characteristics of the type of platform that can deliver smart city outcomes, we look at the term open. Open is kind of one of those phrases that people talk about a lot. But what I really say here, and I'm not going to read the slides, what we need to be able to do is provide a platform where government isn't delivering all of the content or all of the applications. We want private sector, or we want non-government organisations to be able to use the platform to deliver innovative and citizen-centric services. I'm not a believer that government can deliver everything. Government is better at frameworks and the underpinning standards, and providing a secure and agile framework for us all to contribute to the advancement of these smart cities. So it's important that any platform is accessible to the people we want to deliver value to our citizens. It's also important, I'll talk about my experience in the UK. We have spent billions of pounds on very long-running IT initiatives with very poor outcomes, frankly. And, there are many reasons for that. You could argue that perhaps, UK government is not a great, IT company, but moreover, it's because projects take so long. The methodologies are not agile. They don't have agile tool sets. So to deliver a smart city that's responsive and can adapt to change quickly, our platforms need to be agile. So we can react to changes, political changes, climatic changes, who knows what. So that's very important when we think about the type of platforms that we deliver for our cities. And we know the phrase that software is eating the world. I should remember who said that. It was someone a lot more intelligent than me, but it's absolutely true that we want to build as much function at the software level rather than investing in lots of monolithic hardware type solutions, because we know, I put a lot of statistics up there about what will happen in 2050, but realistically nobody knows. If you'd looked at the year 2000 or just before that, we would really not be predicting the type of world we live in now, and that's only 16 years ago. Things have changed tremendously, and the pace of change is likely to change. So we want to be able, our platforms that we're going to deliver citizen-centric services with, to be mainly software defined. So we take the agility, we take the openness, and we deliver that through a software framework. And data analytics is more and more important. Taking multiple sources of data and delivering value and safety from those multiple sources of data is going to be increasingly important. If we're going to have 2 billion cars on the road in 2050, we better figure out a way of doing that efficiently. And there's a lot of bad ways I've seen that happen. So it's vitally important that we use data to inform decisions, and we can inform those decisions real time. So there's my redefined world, but I want to be really clear about one of the things that is going to be our challenge and something we have to get absolutely right in this smart city new world, and that's security. If we're going to have open, agile systems, then we better figure out how this pointer works. So we better figure out how we deliver as a platform those security outcomes. So I'll give you, because all of that data, all of that openness and all of that agility in the wrong hands is a disaster. And so that's why, as a smart city, as someone thinking about developing a smart city platform, regulation, standardization in security is important. And I'll give you a real-time example now. Right now, there's a guy in London running around with a credit card in my name. And the reason is, and this is actually happening in real time, he's managed to get hold of my date of birth, my email address, some other private data. He's called up the credit card company and had a new card issued. That's just one example. And you can figure out all those data points, and it's annoying to me, and it's something I will deal with. But if we're providing smart city platforms, we've got to think about how we govern and protect data and make sure that data is accessible, masked or whatever, so we get the benefit without the risk. And the other thing about smart government is you have to remember the dumb governments, because if you look globally, 85% of all IT budget is spent on old stuff, dumb stuff. And I'm sure, as we know here, budgets are not infinite and not elastic. So if we've only got 15% of our IT budget available for innovation, that's going to be a problem. So we have to figure out how we can platform the dumb stuff, the back ends, the big databases, the immigration systems and the things like this, and leverage that same platform for the smart stuff. Because in any case, the smart stuff wants to talk to the dumb stuff. So it's very important that when you think about building this platform, you've thought about the end-to-end journey of data and how citizens access that data. I'll just give you an example of that. Half of every ERP dollar spent globally is just spent on hosting and keeping it on. Half. And all government has HR solutions, all these back ends. So if we can take money out of that by sharing a platform and reinvest that money in the smart stuff, it's a win all round. If we don't take cost out of that, we're going to most likely retard our ability to do the clever stuff with the smart city platforms. So, just checking the time, need to go a bit quicker. If you look at the platform, we talked about we need to join that up. So let's remember, it doesn't make sense to do tactical, really tactical, unjoined up stuff because it's going to cost more money and have less worthy outcomes, even in the medium term. Platform, we want it open but secure. Got to be agile because we want to bring services to market quickly. Software defined, we agree, and data driven. The data driven part is incredibly important for us. IDC did a piece of work, and they talked, and this is probably a standard maturity curve, but we have to, the ad hoc thing is what probably we've done in the UK. We've done lots of ad hoc. Transport for London's got an okay traffic management system, but it doesn't really join up with our national rail system. Our medical services are not really joined up. So in your view about where to get to as a smart city, I think you have to set the goal to become an optimized and get past this ad hoc piece. Because ad hoc's easy, but it's probably costly and less good outcomes in the long run. So here's my platform. So what is EMC doing about this? So we see ourselves very much as a platform company. We're the guys who we think we can deliver that type of platform that can let the citizen-centric app providers, the people who want to take the data and turn it into something compelling, and we feel we have developed solutions to deliver that. Open Agile here to stay, but again, this security thing, I urge you to think about the security thing. I've mentioned that 2 or 3 times, but if people don't feel safe with the smart city and the smart government and their personal data, we will have failed and we will have lost a big opportunity. So we must, and that standardization on a single or fewer platforms is a way to ensure that security. This, luckily, is my only IT slide. It's the only slide I have that talks about IT. Sama said I had to put this in. But essentially, we have a platform that can play to all these things, and a partner ecosystem. You can see there's a lot of ecosystem at the top where we work with content providers, application providers to deploy really citizen-centric outcomes aligned to that IDC trajectory around moving from an ad hoc to a platform that can support your ambitions. So I'm going to leave you with 3 use cases just to hopefully get a bit of thought process going. So I put this in London. This makes me feel at home. So this is the traffic in London. As you can see, it's, as usual, it's a disaster. The whole centre of London is clogged up. But what we're doing here is trying to take multiple data feeds and react real time to the traffic and the traffic management situation occurring. And, you know, we have the ability to drill down and look at actual incidents and kind of predict and analyse what will happen if this road stays blocked for this amount of time and what are the alternative ways. You know, in London we can swap the phasing of traffic lights, the timing of traffic lights and things like this to react to the inevitable incidents that happen. A bit closer to home, we have Dubai. So in Dubai, what we're doing here is we're looking at the traffic through the toll booths. So we're looking at the revenue coming from the different toll booths in Dubai, and then also looking at the number of accidents. So accidents are interesting because accidents are what citizens care about. So we can look at when accidents happen, why accidents happen. Is it a climate type thing? Is it a time of the day thing? Is it poor lighting at certain parts? All of these data ingest points and turning that into actionable information makes the citizen's life a lot easier. Another one, we saw earlier talking about where to invest in terms of infrastructure. This is something that shows from the grid where the power utilisation is happening. So where are the power hotspots? When do the power hotspots happen? And therefore that might inform decisions on where to build things or where not to build things. Again, taking that big data and turning that into something actionable and useful. And let's go to just a couple of government. So this is something we're doing with the US government. So we essentially built a community cloud. So in US government, there's a lot of organizations that want to re-platform their big ERP, SAP in this case. So we have built a community platform for US federal. It's actually hosted in Las Vegas, which is bizarre, but that's where US government hosts all of its data centers. And we have multiple US governments now moving their applications into this community cloud for the exact reason to drop down that 85% of spend that they are doing on the old stuff so they can do the smart stuff. If you look at these guys, this is US Department of Interior. They have a $1 billion a year IT budget. And actually, they're only the 13th largest federal department. They believe that by moving to a more modern platform, they can drop $100 million of spend year on year. That's $100 million that they're not going to actually save, they're just going to reinvest that in doing more citizen-centric activities around their federal responsibilities. So hopefully that was a little bit of, gave you some food for thought. I think I'll leave you with the thought is create the platform. The platform, the governance and the security is really the foundation of whatever you do. Get that right, and I think there's a tremendous opportunity for all of us in the region to create a really great place for all of us to live and work. So thank you for your time. It's been great speaking to you. Thank you.
الكلمة الآن للسيد مايكل منصور مدير منصات وتقنيات المطور مايكروسوفت في الشرق الأوسط فليتفضل.
صباح الخير. Good morning. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here with all of you this morning. We're honored to be a part of Smart Kuwait as Microsoft, and I'm certainly pleased to be here. Thank you to all of you for being a part of this. When we talk about smart city, I think sometimes there are some misunderstanding in terms of what is a smart city and what role technology has to play. The first consideration is that technology needs to be an enabler for smart cities and not so much a blocker. So we talk about technology for smart cities. Think about how can we find ways to reduce costs, especially in today's economic climate? How can we find ways to monetize the experiences of technology within a smart city? How can we find ways to increase the transparency between the population of a country and its government? So ultimately, think about how can we leverage, whether we're talking about IoT or machine learning or whatever the technology is, how can we work in ways where it is reliable, scalable, and certainly secure? Ultimately, all technology needs to be affordable in the context of a smart city and not become a major expense. Now, of course, I will talk from the vantage point of Microsoft, but I also want to talk a lot about technology today and what it means for a smart city. Cloud itself is fairly often misunderstood. I think in many cases people think that cloud is merely about storage, cloud is not secure, cloud belongs to the cloud providers. Some statistics I think might be of value. First of all, 82% of the Fortune 500 companies today are on cloud. I repeat, 82%. 57% of those companies are on what we call Azure, the platform cloud offering. That is on the big company side when we talk about the Fortune 500. We also have on the SMB side many companies that are born in the cloud. Why is that the case? Why are they born in the cloud? Well, it's simple. If you are starting a business today, one of the things you're looking to do is limit your expenses, and IT clearly is an expense. If there are ways in which you can reduce both your OpEx and your CapEx, then you've done something good for your business. You can channel your budgets into business innovations and business solutions and ultimately your customers. And we here at Microsoft are seeing government as well making that transition. It is real and it is for everyone's benefit. Now, let's talk a bit about the components of what it is in cloud. We talk a great deal about security. If you have a laptop today, then most likely your laptop has 128-bit encryption, certainly laptops that are available today, that is unbreakable. Microsoft Cloud is 256-bit enabled. For those